I'm glad you're here, and I'm excited to talk about today's topic, the link between therapist burnout and insomnia. Be sure to stay to the end for a few short term and long term strategies on navigating sleep struggles. I find that in my private practice, trends come and go, and this week I've been talking a lot about sleep issues and finding insomnia relief with my high achieving clients. You might have heard the therapy expression, your relationship with the first person who talks with you about money is how you feel about money. But I always like to say that the same goes for sleep because your relationship with the first person to send you a message about sleep is how you feel about sleep. Or just consider that your early messages about sleep might be contributing to how you are affected by sleep now. So, what do I mean by this? Think back to what it was like to nap or sleep in as a teenager in your family. People may come from homes where sleeping in wasn't permitted at all. And if someone was still asleep on even on a vacation or a weekend or a day off from school, then they might have been woken up. But at the very least, they might have also been mocked a bit. Like, look who decided to join us. Oh, is your first meal of the day going to be breakfast or lunch because it's so late? Or I already completed my whole to-do list before your day even started. The contrary to this is that you might have come from a sleep supportive household where if you slept in, someone said, oh, your body must have really needed that sleep. Oh, I'm glad you caught up on sleep. You had a really stressful and busy week. Or just noticing that you were maybe invited to clear your schedule or miss a family obligation at some point during the weekend because your family recognized that you needed a little extra time to recuperate or avoid illness. Oftentimes, in sleep unsupportive families, it can be discussed as if there are more productive things to do than sleep, such as study, clean, or work, for example. Think about your own relationship to achievements and the shoulds you feel in terms of performance and achievement. I should be working. I shouldn't need so much rest and relaxation. I should be able to put out a perfect product. I should know more by now. Now think about whether or not you have difficulty falling asleep or staying asleep now, because I see a lot of relationship between high achieving therapists and clients and a challenge with getting good, productive sleep. And there's actually some research to make sense of these two things together, like that adolescents had shorter and poorer quality sleep on days where they had more negative family interactions. There's also a study that connects excessive overprotection from parents, like parents that were more involved, gave less control to the kids, maybe micromanaged and took away a little bit of autonomy from the kids, even if they meant well, and a connection between having higher odds of current sleep disturbance for those kids who are now adults. And another study finds that family relationships with more conflicts or criticism were associated with more frequently troubled sleep, whereas supportive family relationships and interactions related to fewer sleep problems later in life. So we talk a lot about sleep hygiene, and some examples of that are limiting screens before bed, not falling asleep with the TV on, maybe having a wind down routine or starting stimulating activities earlier so that you're not still winding down in the evening, and limiting caffeine, like having a cutoff at 3 p.m. or for some people it's noon because they're still affected by caffeine later on, and even doing something physically active earlier in the day so that you're tired out and ready for bed. Think about little kids, how we think about having them run or play or be active so that they're more tired for their naps and for their sleep time. And all of these are really great and valid strategies, but there can also be other important considerations like these links to achievement and the research is showing us. So, the first thing to consider is what if you could work through conflicts earlier in the day? I know this sounds probably far fetched to some because conflicts sort of happen when they happen. And for parents of kids, sometimes you're purposely scheduling your conflicts till after the kids go to sleep, which is just a great thing to do for a lot of other reasons. But sometimes that puts those conflicts really close to bedtime. So, in some cases, maybe you can create an action plan to have the conflict at a different time, or try and wrap it up so that you can feel relaxed when it's time for bed, or just trying to work through some of those things. A lot of times our minds get busy with thinking through conflicts once it's quiet in the house and you have less going on, less noise, but it's actually impacting sleep in many cases. And if you consider all of the research topics that I mentioned today, it does indicate that there can be some value to working through some of the attitudes about sleep that you might have inherited. So, thinking through what you're actually feeling about sleep, do you deserve it? Is it important to get restful sleep? And is it productive to sleep? And I'll talk about this a little more in number 3, but is productivity really that important? But if you can think through and navigate some of the attitudes that you inherited about sleep, you might actually find that instead of thinking through how you're feeling about sleep the 20 minutes before you fall asleep, but actually thinking about sleep the 20 years before you fall asleep can be helpful. And then number 3, slowly begin to disconnect the value and importance that you place on being productivity and achievement. This is something I help clients do in therapy over time, and it could be something valuable for you to do as well. Because if you don't think that your only value is achievement, then it might also help you to disconnect from feeling like you should be achieving rather than sleeping. If you're ready to learn more about therapist burnout and therapist self-care, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming up next.